Check. Check. One. Beautiful. Our Stickam. Yeah, come on in. Let's take a look. So here's the technology that we're using. Stickam, and we've got my laptop here. This thing's been beat up and through everything, but that's good. And the camera. All right. Well, hi. My name's Dan Kaufman, and we're here at Portland State University today. We're doing the Dinosaurs Bite People Ride.
I'm Tony Noble. I'm an urban planner, urban designer.
I'm Fallon Rottergrim, a PSC student.
Dan Kaufman, host of the show, CrankMyChain, two-way TV.
Hope Yamasaki, also a PSU student.
Alima Considine. I'm a random local musician.
So we're here today to basically, I've had enough with this oil disaster, what's going on. It's been too much, and I feel like there hasn't been enough people out there protesting the situation. I think maybe it's because we're all part of this situation. I mean, no matter what we do, even if we ride bikes around and we go vegan, we're still part of this bigger picture. As the human organism, we need fuel to survive. And so, have we accepted the fact that we'll spill basically one or two Exxon Valdez's every day in our ocean and kill our fish and other species of this planet, which we actually coexist with and need to survive? Will we kill them just because of our need for fuel is so great? And not just need for fuel, but the particular kind of fuel, which is fossil fuel. And that's why I call this Dinosaurs Bite. Basically, dinosaurs who had no control over their fate, they got hit by an asteroid, they all died out, but now they're biting back to us because we've grown dependent on their remains, of course, the remains of the plant life. That's what fuels most of our buildings, most of our cars, and even our food is being fertilized in that manner. So I think this is a big issue that we all need to be out there being aware of. It's not about being guilty or pointing fingers. This is about moving on and coming up with real solutions that can happen right now. Do not let the folks in the government or the oil industry tell you that we are going to be completely dependent on fossil fuels for the next 20 to 30 years. No way. I don't believe that. I will not accept that. The only way that'll happen is if we believe them and accept that. It's a fallacy. We can move on to that. We start paying the true costs for fuel, then we will move away from fossil fuel into other sources that are sustainable. I'd like to go to our first guest, which is Hope. Hope, you're going to kind of talk about some of the social justice aspects of this.
Maybe some social organizing a little bit, just a little. I'm really excited that we're talking about the oil spill because it's really terrible. Just for example, recently 150 sea turtles just washed up dead and they're endangered, and people are reporting respiratory problems because they have to breathe in these toxic fumes. And I don't think there's any way we can know how big this is going to be or how much damage this is going to cause. I personally could compare it to like maybe Chernobyl or something like that. And the saddest and scariest part to me, I guess, is that this is just one symptom of a bigger problem that we're having, and it has to do with the way that we have our relationship with each other and with the earth. And so unless we change that relationship, then these kind of problems are going to continue to happen. I feel like the good news is we do have solutions. There's a lot of alternatives and things that we already know about, and there's brilliant people thinking of new ideas every day. But I feel like what we're lacking is the social unity to make it happen, to force these things to come about. And individually, especially in Portland, we're doing really amazing things. We are gardening, we are riding our bikes, and we are starting to be more smart consumers. And that's really important in building a sustainable culture, but we need to take it another step further and start mobilizing and educating each other so that we can stand together and make this happen, to make these new solutions happen and start to create the future that we want. And I think one of the ways to do this is through independent media, like shows like CrankMyChain can help mobilize people together so we can stand together as a whole collective unit instead of just individually to make this happen. 7% of the world is using 50% of the oil, and so a lot of the people that live in that area may not even have cars, they may not have a way to get away, and they're also feeling these toxic fumes and losing their jobs, and they may not even really be very big consumers compared to like even us or people here.
In so many ways, the way we use fuel is for luxury, you know, to air condition our homes, or, you know, hey, I want to be able to travel 150 miles an hour in my sports car, you know. These aren't necessities. I'm not one to go out and say, oh, you shouldn't do this or that, or, you know, put a value on what's right and wrong again, but I feel like when the disparity is there so much for luxury rather than survival, when people are just barely surviving, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit well with me.
I have a question because I'm getting a little cranky.
Oh yeah, Cranky Jay. Cranky Jay's behind the camera. Go, yes. What's your question?
Now, why does it have to be a big disaster for us to even act?
I don't know. I mean, some people are calling this an environmental 9/11, you know, or Pearl Harbor, right? Does it take? Sometimes it takes that type of thing to get people to act. Maybe this is a way for people to act. I think people are acting every day. Some people are, but it's the consciousness. Things come into vogue. You know, homelessness becomes the thing that's going to be in the news stories for a few weeks. Then it goes bye-bye, and then we forget about it. And that's human nature, you know. Stories become the topic around the water cooler, you know.
Does that make us opportunists?
Is it,
Yeah.
Are we opportun? I'm an opportunist on this. You know what, I'm gonna just say guilty as charged on that.
And I think we're not just opportunists, you know, this particular topic around carbon and climate change, you know, there's different opinions about, you know, what people actually believe around it. And so I think that in a disaster like this, it actually puts some sort of face to the reality and the consequences to our actions that we have around consuming oil. And, you know, I just want to speak to what you were saying before, specifically around, you don't want to force people, you know, to not have their luxuries, but specifically what I would love to see is that our markets actually reflect the true costs of our decisions.
Yes.
Versus just necessarily mandating behavioral change among people. And so if, you know, a lot of people are pointing their finger at BP right now, but we're all to blame for this because we're all part of this system and we're all contributing to it. And so therefore we should all have to pay for this, you know.
And what's your name, sir?
I'm sorry, my name's Rob Nathan. I'm here. I'm an associate with Hope. And, you know, I just think that when we think about paying for the cleanup and also when we pump our gases or when we buy plastic or when we purchase a product that comes from across the world that someone made in, you know, a sweatshop, I think we should all pay the true costs of that because those types of decisions will actually shift behavioral change.
So basically you're saying we should pay $50 at the pump per gallon of gas.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we'd see a lot more people on bicycles.
And it's still a cheap price to pay
Yeah.
for damaging the environment.
Yeah. And that's a good luxury cost, right? Because like if we're talking about a luxury, that's a luxury. And then we'll stop purchasing food from across the world. We'll start growing our own food and purchasing our own food locally and supporting local farmers because it'll cost less to get to us. And I think that's the types of shifts that we really want to see if we're going to make some substantial changes.
Absolutely, and that makes a great segue to one of the other folks who would like to speak today, Fallon. And let me just clip this on you, or you can hold it.
What do I do
Oh,
with
just
it?
here, we'll just clip it right there.
Yeah, I was actually gonna tag on to that because I feel like often people get really overwhelmed with not feeling empowered and they don't know what to do, like what steps in their lives and their daily lives that they should take. And I think a lot of the things are much easier than we could ever imagine. Like for example, one of the things I like to make a plug for a lot is humanure. The human nutrient cycle is, you know, we eat our food and our waste is actually food again if you compost it and use it as fertilizer to grow crops. And it makes so much sense, and that's how nature works. There is no waste in nature. Like the waste is food again.
Well, now how does that work though? Isn't like I mean, like don't you don't normally use animals that are omnivores to use to make manure? Like mostly it's like chicken, horse, that kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like
you
you
can
don't hear too much of pig manure. I guess I'll do it.
You can compost human manure if you just put like a sawdust or something. You can just poop into a bucket and put sawdust on it, and it composts if you put it into a bin. And the thermophilic bacteria actually break down the bad stuff basically, and it gets hot enough to be usable compost.
It heats up enough to destroy all the amoebas and bacteria. And
Well, so, and this is, to me, this is an example of just kind of an obvious, easy solution. Like we're spending millions of dollars to have our sewer taken to a plant to be treated
And we're polluting our water.
and then we're dumping it into our water. I mean, it's great that we have you know, flush toilets and we don't have tuberculosis and a lot of the diseases that we used to have. But can't we go that next step as a society and start? You know, we can get fuel from this waste, and we can get you know, compost, manure from this waste, and it's all right there, and it's free. But I don't know that maybe there's not such a great profit motive. Is that the problem? I mean,
well, the EO factor's there.
Yeah, it's a
The
cultural
EO factor, yeah. I was like,
Also cities.
gonna have your crap and eat it too.
Well, the fact that we like living in relatively dense areas. I live in an apartment, so I have no yard. I have no place to compost my waste. I could have a couple pots on the balcony, competing with my neighbor's bicycles, but growing my own food is not really an option. And all the things that come in living in a relatively dense area, the fact that we can't grow our food, so the food needs to be trucked in, and it just builds on. So you're asking, it's basically an anti-city movement.
is it really though? I mean, isn't
Well,
this
I mean,
the kind of
if we were
solution?
trying for every single person to do this, we would require a lot more square foot per person.
But what
to
if we were to
be taking
just,
care of our needs.
we've got the sewer system already, can't we
Well,
just
but
pipe it into a central location?
You
But
mean make it a
it's
closed
true.
system?
Well, that would work if there weren't jerks flushing
Well-
syringes.
Right. But I mean,
Then we
there's, I
wouldn't
mean,
have to do
there's
anything.
solutions out there. I mean, I'm sure
Kill
there's a way to,
jerks?
no, you have a syringe filter of some sort. I mean, I'm
Yeah, it's
sure
called
that,
the sewage treatment plant.
yeah, so you
then
treat
you're
it.
back to having your plant.
I don't see a
instead
problem
of-
with having a
Okay.
plant per se. I mean, to me, I think cities are a great efficient way for people to live
Yeah.
in
it
a
can be
dense
really fun.
environment. And yeah, and it's fun. And I mean, if everybody has to have their own sewage treatment facility and is growing their own food or whatever, I think there's a
we'll be
lot
back
less
on the
humans
farm.
that can exist on this planet.
Can I speak to that actually? 'Cause I think you bring up a really great point, and you bring up a point around equity too, and a point around people who live in the cities and people who may have time to, you know, grow their own food, or time to spend the time composting. But I think what we're advocating for is a paradigm shift in the way that we plan our cities and the way that we plan our commutes and the way that we use space efficiently, because there is actually a lot of space being, you know, just not being used. All these rooftops, you know, all this open space right here. And I think that as long as we start focusing on what our needs are, you know, and start shifting our planning towards those needs, I think that we can come up with some solutions that can work for everyone, and where people who don't have time and don't have the space can also participate in their own way, you know, and also benefit from the yield.
Well, I mean, I think also you bring up a good point with this too, in that so often the solutions seem like it comes down to us as individuals, and it almost becomes impossible too at that point.
Well, no, I'm a firm believer in urban planning because I know people don't make their decisions the same way I do. Like, I won't choose a dwelling that's more than a 15-minute bike ride from where I'm working because I refuse to be commuting by some sort of automobile every day. You know,
Right.
even a bus is just intolerable experience. But most people say it's only an hour each way. I can do it. My kids are going to a good school. You know, we'll make our own choices. So we have to make things easy for people because America is all about cheap and easy. So if we make things the cheapest and easiest choice, people will choose it.
Right. Right. So, and I think, I mean, that's where I see, like, putting a tax or making people pay the true cost of the fuel consumption. That'll make that hour-long commute a lot less
It'll be less cheap.
cheap. And I do believe that at some point the individual has to, we as individuals also have to get on board with this. It can't just be, we can't all be disconnected from how we get our food, how we do our transportation, how we heat our homes. We can't all be disconnected from it. It's I mean,
Everything intersects.
it does.
You know, from like doing the human manure to doing the permaculture on top of the buildings and, you know, commuting. So your carbon footprint is going to go down drastically.
But I mean, I think it's interesting if you look at humans. It's like if you backed off from us and looked at us as like an ant colony or something. You know, then you can see that we're doing certain things. Like here's some ants over here. They're going to put pipes in the ground to pull up the fuel they need to stay warm. You know, those ants are doing that, and all the rest of the other ants do good because of that.
Yeah, you're talking about that paradigm between, or that shift between like being an individual and being a part of the community.
Yeah.
And how do you balance that?
This is something that's on the public consciousness right now, which is how do we solve this problem? We are collectively part of this issue of fuel consumption, and I want to stay on top of this. This is a big part of why I ride my bike, why I got into bikes and then started my show CrankMyChain, is because, well, originally it was more of a social justice issue for me with the Iraq War. I felt like, how do I disconnect from that war? The one way I can do it is by buying less fuel. But I would love to see a bunch of people getting behind this, and it is happening. Finally, because of this disaster, we're seeing people getting behind this. There was a march called Pink yesterday in Washington, D.C., or Monday. There's protests in Louisiana that are going on right now. And we've got to get out there and not protest per se and point the BP definitely needs to be held culpable. But we also need to hold ourselves culpable and come up with solutions. And that's what this is about. So I hope that people will come down next week. Here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do more riding. And maybe I can hand you the mic.
Sure. So I think, bicycling has been, it's maybe one solution that we can work on for our energy consumption. The big question I have is, how do we bring that to the masses? How do we, help to encourage, how do we facilitate those people that might want to bike, but it's a little bit too uncomfortable for them? It doesn't feel safe. How are we going to be able to take that, I don't know, you could say next generation, next wave of bicyclists onto the street to, let them feel safe and continue that. I've seen people giving talks on how can we get 80% of the people to cycle, and I don't know how that might be happening, but that sounds like it's a really interesting figure.
How would you encourage your neighbors that don't cycle? How would you encourage them?
The first thing is just to engage the conversation. Just get the conversation started with people you wouldn't talk to normally.
I think taking them out on a bike ride, because I live with a woman who drives her car to work every day, and I took her out on a bike ride up to Sunday Parkways, and she actually enjoyed herself and she was surprised. So just taking them out on a bike ride might help.
Just when you involve people, they become more interested in that particular activity.
Exactly.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Go to the store with them, they find out how easy it is to take some bags to the store and bring back some groceries.
And fun, too.
And fun.
That's the thing. I think, like, even we were riding across pouring rain, going across the Hawthorne Bridge today, and it's just beautiful. It's a different kind of beauty that most folks don't get to experience, because it's like, oh, it's raining, I have to be inside.
He made me ride in the rain. And then you wonder why I'm cranky, Jay.
One of the things I need to do, this is a sponsored show. The way that this happens, the way I can get this gear going is through our sponsors. We have two sponsors right now. One is BikeRealtor.com, and she's been with us since the beginning, so thank you very much, BikeRealtor.com. And our new sponsor, brand new, is Brooker's Powder Coating.
I'm taking my bike to Brooker Enterprises in Portland. Super baked on, this will just come right off.
That'll come off through the burn-off oven, so it'll be actually right down to bare metal, just like it was when it was originally made. After the part is done with the prep work and the masking, it's hung on a metal rack, which is attached to the earth ground. The powder is applied through an electrostatic process, in which case the powder sticks temporarily to the part and is carefully moved from there on into the oven, which is the heat being the catalyst which cures the powder. It comes out, it's very, very hard. It's actually kind of a form of plastic, so as soon as it comes out of the oven, it's as cured as it's ever going to be.
That is hot pink. Nice. So here's Pinky all done, and I'm very happy with my new bike. It's
from the audience, there's been some discussion and questions about taxation. How do you tax the oil industry, and has that worked for like cigarettes? You know, and I think taxation is definitely something we should consider. It's being done in Europe, but I think we also should consider just ending the subsidies. You know, I mean, that's just simple. Like, there should be no subsidies for coal and oil exploration. I mean, duh. That's simple. I think that's something that we could call our leaders and say, you know, no more subsidizing the fuel industry. Also, the way we build roads, if you think about it as a subsidy for cars, especially high-speed vehicles. So we need to look at the way that we subsidize motorized vehicle traffic. And by the way, if anybody thinks that our motor vehicles are paid for, the roads are paid for by gas taxes, you're wrong. It's only about 1/3 of the roads are paid for by motor vehicle registration, gas taxes, and fees. So those are some places that don't even require that we bring in new taxes, which, you know, God forbid, we talk about new taxes. Okay, you don't like taxes, you don't like subsidies, let's end the subsidies for the fuel industry right now.
How's it framing?
I think it's a good transition. Anybody want to go on a ride down to Pioneer Square? Yeah, it's not raining. Okay.
A big shout out to Brian, Ground Control.
Thanks, Brian, for helping run this. Okay. And I haven't gotten any phone calls, so I'm assuming we're still good. We're still broadcasting. So, see, I can turn the camera and everything. Here we are, ready to go. We're headed down to Pioneer Square. This is the Dinosaurs Bite. People ride. You're watching CrankMyChain, two-way TV. I say, hey, Brian, you want to lead? Do you mind? That'd be a good way to go. It's pretty. We got farmers market going on too. Oh, here, let's ride by this yelling for a second. Oh, okay. It's usually at 4 o'clock. You want to ride back? We're going to hell. Yeah. You want to check it out? Yeah, let's do a ride by anyway. Okay, so what's the deal with this guy?
Well, usually he's not out here till 4, and he usually. Oh no, this is the other guy with the cross cane. He talks about masturbation and porn and how we're all going to hell. Corruption, perdition, damnation, hellfire. Where the word is not God, where the fire is not quenched, where there'll be weeping and wail and peace. Out of the darkness into the marvelous light of Christ Jesus our Lord.
Amen.
Know the way of salvation? Any of you?
Yes, Vegas.
We're working on it.
Bicycles, man. Your bicycles, man. Bring yourself from I am the way, the truth, the light. No man.
Well, we're not the only ones out testifying today. So, Tony, have you always been a bike guy, or?
For quite a while. It's been about whenever I could. For the last 4 years, I've been trying to bicycle as much as I can.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Indianapolis, where, you know, cycling wasn't so easy on the streets. I tried to do it anyway, kind of blaze a trail for other people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Lived in Eugene for a couple of years. That's when I was able to start really doing it for, you know, commuting for most of my time.
Eugene's great.
Eugene's great. I lived in Corvallis for 1.5 years, and it was also very bikeable. Now I'm up in here up here in Portland. Really loving it.
Oh, it smells
Being able
good
to cycle,
in here.
yeah. Tamales.
We're going by the farmer's market. Somebody's cooking up something good. Yeah, Portland's pretty good for bicycling as far as U.S. cities go. Though I still think it could be way better.
Certainly could be. I'm always surprised how many people are bicycling, and I'm also at the same time surprised more people aren't.
Yeah. It seems like every year once the weather gets good, it's like there's even more than there were last year. It's just like it grows exponentially every year. That's what we need. An Escalade. Get out of the rain. Reminds me of a song. My baby drove up in a brand new Cadillac Escalade. My baby drove up in a brand new Cadillac Escalade. She said, big balls to you, daddy. But she ain't ever coming back. Baby, can't you hear my plea? No, just the Clash version.
He does one of my favorite songs, Thunderstorms.
Wayne Hancock.
So we don't have our guitars today, so we're probably going to have to sing it.
Yeah, just a cappella on the songs today. I have.
You have?
I have.
I
have seen something that I've given to the Goodwill at Goodwill. I haven't seen it on. I haven't recognized something I gave to Goodwill on a person, but yes.
I've recognized a T-shirt that I made a long time ago. I donated it.
Careful on the tracks.
Donated it to Goodwill, and then I recognized it. This guy.
Okay, so see those folks cycling down there? That's them down there.
Nice.
So we're at Pioneer Square. It's just sprinkling right now. I think the camera's gonna be all right.
Yeah. You want to go run?
I can go down the thing. All right, well, again, this is CrankMyChain two-way TV. I'm your host, Dan Kaufman. We are here today at Pioneer Square, and we're doing we're getting out of here doing a demonstration, if you will, about the need to do something about the ongoing oil disaster. And by ongoing oil disaster, I mean more than just what's going on in the Gulf, which is very important and something that we need to look at. But it's also part of a bigger problem. And now we're going to segue over to something else. Hi. He's got his camera going.
How's it going?
Hey, Josh.
How's it going? The camera's connected.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Like,
We're doing
is it
a live
sending
broadcast right now
two camera links?
to a show called CrankMyChain, two-way
we're gonna edit some of the stuff from here.
Today's show is called the Dinosaurs Bike Equal Ride. We're out kind of protesting the ongoing oil disaster.
Okay. Are we still broadcasting?
Yeah. Oh, good. And my camera's kind of wet, but I also heard about you all doing this, raising awareness for multiple sclerosis, and we've got folks in there. Well, tell us a little bit.
So today is World MS Day. So all over the world, 100 different countries, they have events going on just to bring awareness about multiple sclerosis and what the National MS Society and other organizations are doing. So since we put on Bike MS, which is a 2-day fundraising ride, we thought not a better way than just to hold a 26-hour spinning event. So we've been out here I think about 20 hours right now. We've got about 6 hours left to go, and it's been fun. You know, MS stops people from moving. It can cause, you know, anything from tingling and numbness in your fingers and toes to complete paralysis. So for us, riding a bike isn't just being out here riding a bike, but it's about movement and about showing that we're here to make sure that MS doesn't stop. So it's been a fun event.
And who's been on the bike the longest right now?
We had a guy that started at midnight and went till 6 a.m., 6 hours. He never even got off to use the restroom. So yeah, he's a Columbia Sportswear fan or an employee, and he's one of our team captains, and he just went for it. He brought 7 kids from high school down with him, and he had a good time.
Well, this is a great event. Now, tell us a little bit more about the disease MS. Is there anything we can do to prevent it from happening, or you know, why did it happen?
So the short is that we don't know. So in 1992, there was only one treatment available that would slow the symptoms. Now there's 5 or 6. In fact, just this year, the first oral medication is coming out, so they won't have to inject themselves daily, but they'll be able to take a pill. But it's a disease of the central nervous system. And if you think of it like an electrical wire, the insulation on the wire gets degraded. So our nerves from our fingers and our toes, our elbows and our knees, they get short-circuited. They don't always make it to the brain. And that's what causes the symptoms of tingling or paralysis or vision problems, cognitive issues. Don't know what causes it, but we've made some great progress in finding treatments and looking for a cure.
And an event like this will raise money and awareness for that. And what do you think the key things to do are to help people get the medicines that are currently available, to raise awareness? So, I mean, if there's nothing you can do to prevent it, I suppose you probably shouldn't worry about it then, right? But we want to help the people who do get it.
We want to help people. So there's actually 7,000 people in the state of Oregon that have MS. Over 7,000. And then you also think about their family and friends who help support them. So there's more people affected by it. So what we do as the Oregon chapter of the MS Society is we do client programs like education programs, awareness. We do self-help groups. We do financial assistance to help pay for the $5,000 prescriptions every month. And then we do a lot of research. So as you guys know, Oregon is awesome with the biomedical research here. Oregon also has twice the national rate of MS. Harsher climate, lack of sun sometimes can affect MS, they think. So we have twice the amount, and because of that, OHSU and Providence have 2 of the best research centers in the country. So there's some really awesome stuff going on here for our clients.
Do you think we're getting any closer to finding a cure?
We are. We're getting much closer, yeah. I mean, for finding a cure, for finding better treatments, and also for figuring out what is causing this. Yeah.
But now do you worry that might put you out of business then?
I hope it does. Yeah, I really hope it does. Yeah, we'll still ride our bikes and we'll still help people who have MS, but yeah, it'd be great if R&D went away.
Well, that's great. I really need to see you out here. I saw you on the news this morning, so obviously the message is good. And we're going to kind of, maybe if you don't mind, we'll hang out nearby. Maybe talk to you a little bit every now and then as the rain gets heavier.
And feel free to talk to our writers. The guy in the beige hat's got a great, compelling story about why he's here.
Okay.
He might be a good person to talk to. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And your name again?
Josh.
Josh, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring that person over? So, since
he's on the bike, right?
Oh, he's,
yeah.
Oh, he's on the bike.
Yep.
Okay. So let me...
We'll just kind of walk it.
And then I still have the bike.
Don't want to get disconnected.
102. You're watching CrankMyChain TV, and so technically the show is over.
You can go talk to him and I'll hold the camera here.
Okay.
I'll just do like... No, it's just telling him. You can go talk to the guy and I'll just stand here.
Okay.
Just put yourself.
Okay.
Well, they get a camera.
A lot of hiking, not a lot of relaxing.
How are you guys
Occasionally. One hike on Sunday, and then you get like a good ways in.
That must have been like the most scary thing you've ever experienced.
Oh yeah, if you want to follow me, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Brian.
You're into that and discovered the MS Society. Started working with Bike MS. It's my way of combining my love for cycling with my love for my wife and the cause against the disease. I could easily take her out. It's that fast.
So she's still with us, and how is she?
She's doing great.
Doing great.
Doing great. She's been on 3 different medicines that have been developed through the funds that have been raised through these kind of events.
Oh, that's great. So this shows how this action is actually making a positive contribution to people.
It's a very real difference to our house.
Just on you personally.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for being out here and doing this, and
you,
all of you guys. Let's get your name. Let's get your names here.
I'm James.
James.
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Holly.
Holly. Good to meet you. It's great to see you out here today. We've got a nice touring bike here, or not touring bike, but a racing bike. And so I take it you're a rider, not just.
I enjoy riding. Used to race. Now events like this are great. So I look forward to doing the ride.
What's your favorite ride when you go out just out about these days?
Well, I do the lawyer ride that hits up Pioneer Square Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, I did that once. That's all I needed.
A lot of fun, hard ride, good group of people. And then of course going down the old highway, old historic Columbia Highway, Columbia River, which apparently on the Sunday event of this ride, that's where they go. From Troutdale, Alamo River to Crown Point, and all the way out to Cascade Locks. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, this is great. Looks like you have a real nice bike, and it's great that you can be getting some training in here. Hey, this is kind of self-serving here.
It's like, hey, they have a trainer. It's covered. Okay, I'll donate a little bit of money. Come on down.
This is great. Well, thank you all for doing this here. It's bringing awareness to MS, which is multiple sclerosis, and to helping find a cure and being able to treat these diseases.
Wow!
Again, you're watching CrankMyChain two-way TV. We've done a whole hour. It's just gone by like that. I appreciate everybody who's come out and come on the ride. And again, we want to remind folks: dinosaurs bite, people ride. Okay, it's time to move away. Yes, we need fuel to survive in this modern society, but it's time to move away from fossil fuels. And we can do it. It's not going to take 30 years. We can do it now.